Good morning. This is Miss D. First, I'd like to say happy first day of spring. I hope you're wearing something very colorful and festive, because I am. And today, we're going to learn about pedigrees. Now, pedigrees are something that you may have heard of before, and they are used in several instances. We are going to use them to try to figure out or to model some inheritance of traits in your own family and hopefully create an artifact that you can include in your selfie book. So to get started, please get to today's agenda in Echo. I'm going to give you a few seconds, pause the video if you need to get there, and start it again once you get to the screen that you see on this video. Okay, you should be in today's agenda in Echo. And I'm going to go to the link in the warm-up, number 2, Pedigree Exercise, Test Your Understanding. So go ahead and click on that. You can open it in a new link or just click on it, however you prefer. Excuse me. And your screen should appear thusly. Please take a moment to read the text. There's some key concepts in there that I'd like you to become familiar with. We're going to be practicing these over and over again, so this will be your first view. I don't expect you to totally grasp everything right away, but make sure you do read it. So pause the video right now and read this page. Okay, welcome back. A couple things I wanted you to pick up from the reading. A pedigree is similar to a family tree, but it is more about inheritance of traits. So there is a genetic component that you don't necessarily see in a family tree. A family tree would include things like adoptions and just names and dates of birth, but a pedigree includes children from any union, marriage or no, and it doesn't list names, or dates of birth, or dates of death. It lists phenotypes and genotypes. So similar but different purpose. A couple other things I'd like you to see are in the bottom, that'd be the right-hand side. There's a table. There's some typical symbols that you see in a pedigree. For example, a female, a woman, is designated by a circle, and then a male is designated by a square. So an unaffected female won't have a color. An affected female will be shaded in, typically. And if they're heterozygote or unaffected or a carrier, it really depends on the inheritance pattern, but you can see that there's a difference. You have a circle as female, a square as male, and then depending on your key, unaffected is blank, affected is shaded in, and a heterozygote or a carrier is half and half. If a male and a female have a child or children, you designate that by connecting them with a line. And hopefully we don't have to deal with mating between relatives, so I won't really spend much time on that. So at this point, go ahead and click on the next button, which is at the bottom right of your screen. Which brings you to the Pedigree Analysis interactive page. I'm going to run through a couple different scenarios just to demonstrate. What I'd like you to do is to watch my demonstration, and then after each demonstration, take some time to explore, try using this tool to model your own family, or just play around just to get comfortable with it. So I'm going to do a demo, then take a few minutes to play, and then watch my next demo. I'm going to have 3 demos, and should take only a couple minutes per. The first demo will be of an autosomal dominant trait. So make sure that when you play with the autosomal dominant traits, the green selection button is on next to autosomal dominant. In this tool, we have generations separated 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I've noticed on my computer that as I build my pedigree, the generations don't particularly line up perfectly. No matter, we know what it means. So in my first example, I am going to play with an autosomal dominant trait. Let's say tongue rolling. And rolling is the dominant trait, non-rolling is the recessive trait. So I'm going to mate, I'm going to mate two heterozygotes. Heterozygote means they have two different alleles. So two heterozygotes are going to have 4 children. So I clicked on the number of children button and up popped this dialog. I'm going to select 4 children. And look, my generation 2 is actually in my generation 3 line, but I know it's generation 2. So I'm going to have all 4 children marry heterozygotes because apparently rolling of the tongue is a very attractive trait and they are highly sought after. Not really, it's just for fun. All 4 in generation 2 marry heterozygotes, so they're big A, little a, and each pair has 1 child. So click on the number of children and select 1 child. Click on the number of children, select 1 child for each couple. And now you see that there is a line coming down from each pair to their child, and there's a blank for their partner. So my generation 3 lines up in my generation 4 space, and again, we're just going to ignore that. So similar to what we did in generation 2, here's my generation 3. Pardon me. All 4 are going to marry heterozygotes. So you have to make sure you select the appropriate shape to fill in. So my first child from the first couple is a female, so she needs to breed with a male. It's biology, it's the way it is. And just pick the appropriate shape to drag and drop into the open space. And now, for this generation, each is going to have 1 child. And now my great-grandchildren are in the text below, so hopefully it's not too confusing. So my question is, how many great-grandchildren are rollers? I said great-grandchildren, what does that mean? Well, if this is me, I'm a tongue-rolling lady, and I found a tongue-rolling man, and we had 4 kids. These are my kids. Well, my kids having kids, these are my grandkids and their spouses, right? And when my grandkids have kids, it makes them my great-grandkids. So that's 4 generations. How many of my great-grandkids are tongue rollers? Well, here's the rub. Every single person who does this exercise is probably going to have a different answer. And the reason is because of the variation introduced in each generation. So take a look at your screen. If you have done this exercise along with me, your answer won't match my answer exactly, and that's okay. I just want you to pick up on the principle here. This is an autosomal dominant trait that really carries through quite strongly in each generation. So if we are to try to do a different example, all we have to do is hit start again, and it clears our pedigree. So go ahead and pause the video at this point and take a few minutes to build your own autosomal dominant pedigree. And when you're ready to proceed, just hit play and we'll start playing with the autosomal recessive. Welcome back. We're going to play with the autosomal recessive trait. I have chosen to model cystic fibrosis, an unaffected allele represented by the dominant uppercase A and an affected allele represented by the lowercase a. So our unaffected non-carriers have 2 dominant unaffected alleles. Our homozygous unaffected carriers are heterozygotes, and our our affected are heterozygotes for the recessive allele. So we're going to start with, just like we did in the autosomal dominant, we're going to start with 2 heterozygotes. Now you'll notice the symbol used for heterozygotes is different than it was for the autosomal dominant. And the reason is that these are unaffected. Whereas with the autosomal dominant, they were shaded in entirely because they were affected. They were heterozygotes that had a dominant trait, which means that they demonstrated, they had that phenotype. Whereas with an autosomal recessive, they have the dominant allele masking the recessive disease allele, so they do not have the cystic fibrosis phenotype. Also, similarly to what we did with the autosomal dominant, these two are going to have 4 children, and your 4 children are going to look different than my 4 children, and that's true in reality as well. They're all going to marry, and only one is going to marry a carrier male. So look at the 2 females, or however many. Ooh, all mine are girls. Hey, I'm going to let the first one marry a carrier male. Bum, bum, bum. I can look at that right now, and that doesn't bode well for the children. So I have a child with cystic fibrosis. I have 2 carrier children. I have 1 unaffected non-carrier child. Unfortunately, one of my girls that has cystic fibrosis is marrying someone who is a carrier. And you'll soon see why I'm pretty sad about that. So anyway, they all marry. Only one marries a carrier male. Everyone else marries unaffected non-carriers. And everybody has 1 child. So here's why I'm so sad. Now I've got a granddaughter with cystic fibrosis. Well, it's a sad story, but she's amazing, and I love her anyway. So they're all in generation 3. My grandchildren are all going to marry, and again, one marries a carrier female. Well, I have 2, 3 grandsons. I'm going to have my carrier grandson marry a carrier female, and you can do a different one. Luckily, everyone else found an unaffected partner, and they all had 1 child. So I'm glad to say that my granddaughter with cystic fibrosis stayed healthy long enough in order to have a baby, a bouncing baby boy who is unaffected but is a carrier. I have 3 carrier grandchildren and 1 unaffected grandchild. So why don't you go ahead and do a similar exercise and see how the autosomal recessive traits are carried through. Go ahead and pause the video and do an example. All right, welcome back. We are going to play with sex-linked recessive traits. I chose color blindness. You'll notice that the pedigree symbols have changed yet again. Now we have this new letter, Y. Well, why? Why do we have a Y? Well, that's because we're dealing with sex-linked traits. So if this pedigree had used proper nomenclature, as you saw in the video, we would have an X with a superscript A and a Y. X with a superscript A, X with a superscript A. I'm just presuming that this was easier, and so they didn't do it. So just bear that in mind, that I'm not using proper nomenclature, but it is good enough to get the point across. So we have a non-carrier male, homozygous unaffected. He has an X with a superscript A, or in this case just A, and his Y chromosome. The female has 2 X chromosomes, and they are both unaffected. Why don't we have a homozygous why don't we have a homozygous carrier male? Well, the reason is he only has 1 X chromosome. So the X chromosome either has, let's try that again, the X chromosome either has the affected allele or it does not. You don't have like half of an allele that's affected, so that's why this is a blank. So we have three categories for females. We have homozygous unaffected, we have a carrier, where 1 X chromosome has the trait, 1 X chromosome has the trait, 1 X chromosome does not, and homozygous affected, where both X chromosomes have the color blindness trait. So similarly to the other 2 exercises we've done so far, we are going to have a colorblind male. So he has an affected X allele and a Y allele. he marries a lady who has normal color vision, and they have 4 children. Wow. Now, in this generation, the kids all have spouses that are normal color vision. So match up the symbol, and they go. Looks like I have 2 carrier daughters, as is expected. Well, let's see what my grandchildren are going to look like. Normal color vision. Oh, I have a colorblind grandchild. And normal color vision, and another colorblind grandchild. Just luck of the draw. That was random. If I did this again, my outcome would be different. I might have some granddaughters instead. So my grandsons, of whom I am all very proud, they all marry women with normal color vision, and they all have 1 child. All right, here are my great-grandchildren. I have 2 normal color vision great-grandsons and 2 carrier great-granddaughters. If you do this exercise, your outcome will be different. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you are enjoying playing with pedigrees. Just bear in mind, hopefully you'll be able to add a pedigree for your own family into your selfie book. So you can always come back to this tool and try to model reality to get an idea of what you could do. So if you have any questions, come see me or Mrs. Berg. And again, happy first day of spring.